It's AppleCritics from AppleCritics.com. In this video, I'm going to be giving you a review of the Apple HomePod 1 year later. So it's officially been about a year since I've had the Apple HomePod, and I'm just going to be giving you my thoughts and opinions and my overall day-to-day use of the HomePod and the overall verdict of whether you should buy or you should not buy the Apple HomePod. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into this video. So this is Apple's most polarizing device. You either love it or you hate it. You think it's a great speaker or it's a dumb speaker. This is Apple's solution to the smart home speaker category. In Q1 2018, Apple only sold 600,000 of these, so that's definitely considered a flop. And they only took 6% of the smart home speaker market with this HomePod device in Q1 of 2018. So that was initially when it was launched, so that's just giving you a preview into the overall opinions and critics of this device so far. But since then, it has improved in some ways, and the competition has gotten stiffer between Google with the Google Home Mini and Amazon with the Amazon Echo. In this video, I'm just going to be giving you everything that you need to know about the HomePod in order to make the best decision about it. So when it comes to appearance, the Apple HomePod is like no other. It's just a very nice and aesthetically pleasing speaker to look at. It has a mesh all around it. And if you take a look at the other smart home speakers, originally they didn't start out all in mesh. They had a lot of plastic and more plastic than mesh. But the Apple HomePod is just a stunning speaker. It's a statement piece to have. It will definitely stand out in your house for all the right reasons, of course. And it comes in either a space gray, kind of black color, or in white. So I prefer the black because it just blends in with the overall tone of my house, and it just is very sleek to say the least. Now the HomePod is also a perfect size, so you can take the size of your hand and kind of compare it and grip it, so it's not too big, but for the sound it packs in such a small device, it's amazing. It can definitely fill up the room. Now in terms of compatibility, the Apple HomePod is only compatible with Apple devices, and it's restricted to Apple Music. So you can use AirPlay 2 with it. So with AirPlay 2, you can use your iPhone, your iPod Touch, your iPad, and you can also use your Apple TV and Apple Watch to connect to this HomePod. But other than that, it's an Apple exclusive device. There's no Bluetooth, so you can't use it as a Bluetooth speaker, number one. And you can't use it with your Android device either, so those are two big knocks to it. Now when you take a look at the device, this is all it is, just a big speaker. It doesn't have any cables attached to it. It just has the Apple logo right at the bottom. There's no Bluetooth connectivity to it, so you can't use it as a Bluetooth speaker. And there's no headphone jack or aux part of this speaker. It's just strictly a wireless device with this cord that can plug into a wall. Now, in terms of functionality of this speaker, you can only use it with Apple Music. So when you want to activate and talk with Siri, you can only play songs directly through Apple Music. You have no access to Spotify, Pandora, or SoundCloud or anything like that. You can only use your Siri shortcuts to activate Apple Music songs. So there's no other access to any streaming app. On the Amazon Echo, there is access to Apple Music, so that kind of ruined the exclusivity because Apple is going to be a services company moving forward, so that's why they chose to do that deal. Now, in terms of functionality, the HomePod is exclusive to Apple Music. So when you say, Siri, play a song, then it will only play a song from Apple Music, not from Spotify, not from Pandora, not from SoundCloud, or any other streaming service. It will only be with Apple Music when you use your voice commands. But yet you still can use AirPlay from your phone, and then you can play from Spotify, from Pandora, from YouTube, from Audible. You can play all your music and audio through your phone to the HomePod, and then it will work. But you won't have any Siri commands that will work with it. Now, in terms of the competition, with the Google Home Mini, you can use Google Music, you have YouTube Music, you have Spotify, Pandora, and you do have some other support to some streaming services, and there's a deeper variety and more usability. And same with the Amazon Echo, you can use Amazon Music. You can also use Spotify, Pandora, and Apple Music now that Apple is turning into that services company once again and transitioning and making Apple Music more open source. Now, based on this HomePod, Apple should at least open it up to having Spotify support, because that would be huge and more people would probably be inclined to get the HomePod, and people are indebted to whatever streaming service you use, whether it be Apple Music or Spotify. It's either one or the other, and you normally don't use both of them at the same time. So that would be a way to access that segment of the Spotify users with this HomePod if you open it up, and also incorporate Pandora and many other streaming platforms that you can activate with your voice. So that's why people say that Siri isn't very useful if you can only play Apple Music songs on it. Now the HomePod does have HomeKit support, so with HomeKit you can control lights, locks, and also thermostats, but it has to be the Apple specific ones that can be incorporated. So you can use Philip Hue lights, you can also use August smart locks, and Ecobee thermostats are compatible with the Apple HomePod, but any other ones that aren't Apple specific or in the list that HomeKit supports will not be compatible with the HomePod. So for the Amazon Echo, you can use your Ring security cameras and everything like that, and all your great home accessories, but the HomePod will not have any support for it. Since Ring is more exclusive with Amazon, and Apple did not want to have that compatibility with the HomePod, at least in this generation or in this current software update. Now you can have stereo speakers for your Apple HomePod, so you can pair them together and have that stereo sound. So that's definitely a great feature, but Apple HomePod does need more accessibility in order to be the first thought when it comes to mind of a smart home speaker that you definitely have to buy. So the Apple HomePod is very one-dimensional when it comes to the Apple HomeKit and smart home accessories. Now, in terms of iPhone functionality for this great Apple HomePod, it only is linked to one account, so one user. So if I wanted to make a call or listen to my text, anybody can just start talking to this HomePod since it isn't voice specific. So maybe anybody in my contacts list could be called, and anybody can be texted because it isn't voice specific, number one, unlike the Google Home Mini, which is. So that definitely is not good. And it definitely is missing multi-user support so that multiple people can use the HomePod and multiple people can find usability in it. Now the Apple HomePod has sound like no other, so you just have to be in a room and just listen to a song around 90 or 100% to really feel the best experience of the HomePod. So what we can go ahead and do is play a song. So you could hear it, and the bass is very rich yet deep at the same time. There's great highs and great mids in this HomePod, so that's why I really like listening to music. And it's always a great experience listening to music on the HomePod, and it makes you want to re-listen to all the songs you listen to on average speakers or average headphones on the HomePod once again. Now we can compare my iPhone speaker with the same song at 100%. So you can basically hear that there's no comparison, and this HomePod speaker is just very, very good. And for a speaker of its size, I must mention, it does the job incredibly well. So taking a look at the size of my hand compared to the speaker, you can see that it's not too big of a speaker, but yet it's rounded and it has a very interesting design. You have the Apple logo at the bottom, and you have this very big touchscreen right at the top, so you can just play and pause. So you can see that you have the volume up and the volume down. And then you can just press in the middle to play or pause. Now Siri does have some decent functionality, so we can talk with Siri. So every time we talk with Siri with the HomePod, we have to say, "Hey Siri." Set a reminder for 5 p.m. tomorrow to go to the movie theater.
Okay, I added go to the movie theater to the reminders for tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Hey Siri, volume 100%.
That's very loud. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, I changed it.
Hey Siri, cancel the reminder for 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Are you sure you want to delete go to the movie theater?
Yes.
I deleted it.
Hey Siri, set an alarm for 6:30 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Okay, it's on.
Hey Siri, set an alarm for 6:30 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay, your 6:30 a.m. alarm is on.
Hey Siri, cancel the 6:30 a.m. alarm.
I turned off your 6:30 a.m. alarm.
Hey Siri, make a shopping list.
Okay, I've created it. Just tell me if you'd like to add an item to this list.
Hey Siri, add an item to the shopping list.
What should I add to your shopping list?
Buy apples.
Okay, I added buy apples to the shopping list.
Hey Siri, set a timer for 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Counting down.
Hey Siri, cancel that timer.
It's canceled.
Hey Siri, can you give the latest sports news?
From TSN, here's the latest sports news. Or if you prefer, say, "Hey Siri, switch to ESPN instead."
This is your TSN Radio Sports Center update.
CFL on TSN, Surging Al taking on the slumping Red Black.
What does the word precocious mean?
Precocious means of a child having developed certain abilities or inclinations at an earlier age than is usual or expected.
Hey Siri, can you spell the word precocious?
Precocious. Precocious.
You can also ask Siri to play a song. Hey Siri. Play The Motion by Drake.
Now playing The Motion by Drake.
So you could hear that it was playing the song and it responded very quick, and it can play any song in Apple Music. Hey Siri, play Drake's latest album.
Okay, here's the newest album by Drake, Care Package.
So you can hear that the Apple HomePod Siri does have a lot of great functionality, and it integrates into your daily life. It may not be as good as the Amazon Echo nor the Google Home Mini, but it does have some great functionality, and it can easily perform some basic tasks. Now, the HomePod does allow you to make calls with it, so you could use the HomePod as a speaker and a mic. So all you can do is just make a call. So to use the HomePod with your phone, all you have to do is just press accept the call. Just press on audio, and then you choose the HomePod right here. So now if we take a look at the HomePod, you're going to see that it will be green, indicating that there is a call. And we do have the on-screen controls, so you can turn the volume up or turn it down. And it works very well as a speaker and as a microphone simultaneously. And the call quality is very clear, most importantly. And it also needs to have voice recognition so that not anybody can use the HomePod. Now, in terms of the value of this device, the Apple HomePod is $350, and that's definitely a hefty price for what you're getting, so there is a very small value ratio if you were to do the math on it. You can only use it with Apple Music for your Siri commands. You don't have Spotify, Pandora, and when it comes to the HomeKit, you don't have that Ring and that Roomba support, and all the smart home accessories is also very limited. And when it comes to sound, there's no other smart home speaker that sounds as good as this HomePod, in my honest opinion, because this can really fill up the room. So you're basically buying it for the speaker capabilities and not for everything else that comes with it, and not for the Siri support as well. So it is very mediocre when you think of it that way. And $350 is definitely a premium for what you get in this speaker. Now the Sonos One is $200, and you get a great sound and a great assistant and more support for streaming services with that device, and you save $150 compared to the price of the HomePod. Now I definitely would recommend the Apple HomePod if you have Apple Music, number one, and you're not using Spotify. Number two, if you have Apple compatible HomeKit accessories. Number three, if you're already a part of the Apple ecosystem, you have that iPhone, you have that iPad, you have a Mac, and you also happen to have an Apple Watch, then this HomePod would be perfect for you, and it's just that missing puzzle piece in that Apple ecosystem, I would say. I would also recommend buying the Apple HomePod if you really care about sound and the way music is heard. This device does have great sound, and it does have some great bass as well. if you're into bass-heavy songs, and the Apple HomePod can fill up a room like no other. I really wish Apple would take advantage of this nice touchscreen right in the middle of the device. I wish they would have the album artwork, what song is currently playing, or something like that. They should make it way more intuitive than it actually is, because all it has is a plus and a minus sign. Now, the Apple HomePod is slowly losing its value since it did lose the exclusivity with Apple Music for the HomePod, since the Amazon Echo now has it, and also is losing value as many of the newer generation TVs are going to get AirPlay 2 support, so it's slowly decreasing in its value that it once had upon release. So in conclusion, the Apple HomePod is a decent speaker overall. It gets the job done, it has a great design, has great sound, has stereo support, so you can link multiple HomePods together. You do have a decent Siri that can perform basic tasks like telling you the weather, telling you the news, giving you sports information if you are an avid sports fan. You can do calculations, and it'll give you answers to some basic questions, and it will just shine in that way. But anything more than that is asking way too much for this HomePod. It does have Apple Music, so if you are using Apple Music and you're into it, it will work fine with you and will integrate well in daily life. Now also, if you are wanting to be a part of that Apple ecosystem and you have all the check marks, including the iPhone, the iPad, a Mac, then this would definitely work well in your lifestyle and overall Apple ecosystem. So that's when I would recommend this speaker. Now, if you have Spotify and you want more usability, or if you want YouTube Music in a Google Home Mini, or if you have smart home accessories that doesn't work with the HomePod, then that is when the HomePod will not be the device that will be in your home, and I would recommend against it. So that is the final verdict. So thank you for watching this video on my Apple HomePod 1 year later review. Please be sure to subscribe. If you like this video, please smash that like button down below so you know you watched. Also, be sure to check out all the other videos on my channel. Be sure to check out AppleCritics.com for this Apple news, reviews, and more. Like my Facebook fan page at facebook.com/AppleCritics. And also be sure to follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/AppleCritics. And thanks for watching.